Okay, another subcategory of line is array. So array has one endpoint, and it goes on forever in the other direction. So we're going to call this F, and then we're going to put a point on there that's G. Okay, array is one-dimensional, and it has only one endpoint. And it is infinite because it goes on forever in one direction. So the arrows on the end of the line and on the end of the array just indicate that it will continue forever and ever. And because mathematicians don't have time to draw a line forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and because it's kind of impossible, we basically just signify that with an arrow. Okay, so array, again, you label it with 2 points. One is the end point, and the other one can be any point in there, and one non-end point. Okay, so I would call this ray FG, and again, I'm going to write FG with array on top of it. So the important thing about labeling rays, is that you have to make sure the arrow is pointed towards the end that goes on forever and ever. So notice the arrow is pointed towards the G because the G is on the end that goes on forever and ever. The end point does not have the arrow on it. Okay, so the end point, I'm going to write that here. End point does not have an arrow. And that's super important because that denotes how far the arrow goes or which direction it goes. If you mess up and you draw it the other way, then you are not talking about the same ray that you thought you were talking about. Okay. And last but not least, this is a subsection of rays. This is called opposite rays. Opposite rays. And basically it's like they have the same endpoint and then they go in opposite directions. So one goes that way and one goes this way. So let's call this endpoint H, and we've got an I and a J. So the opposite rays are one-dimensional. They have the same endpoint. And notice they create a line. They create a line. And they have to create a line. That's why they're opposite rays. Okay, so labeling it is basically you just label both rays. Label both rays. Okay, so you'll have to do ray HJ, HJ with an arrow towards the J, and ray HI, HI with an arrow towards the I. Again, point the arrow towards the direction that is going on forever and ever. Okay. All right, now we're going to talk about planes. Planes. Plane. Okay, a plane looks like this. Basically, you draw it to look like a sheet of paper or a wall or some other flat surface that you know of. You can name a plane a few different ways, so I'll go over that in a second, but a plane is a two-dimensional shape, and it is infinite. Okay, goes on forever on all directions. So again, because mathematicians can't exactly draw something that's infinite, we just draw a little thing that looks like a sheet of paper and call it a plane, and we know that it goes on forever and ever. So in order to label it, there are two different ways. Way one is there's a letter in the corner of So if I put a letter in the corner of this plane and I called it plane Q, it would be an italicized Q. So I would write plane Q. Okay. The second way to label a plane is by three non-collinear points. And I'll talk about non-collinear in the next video. So I'll call these points A, B, and C. They're non-collinear because they don't line up. Like I couldn't draw a line between all three of them. So then I could also call this plane 2. Plane A, B, C. Okay. All right. That's it.